I'm Richard Jeffrey Buhr. I've always gone by my middle name. This started with my older brother named William Douglas. Too many Williams in the family with an English background, and continue with my younger brother. I work with the USDA Agricultural Research Centers, Poultry Microbiology Safety and Meat Quality Research Unit. I've been here for 24 years. Before that, I was with the University of Georgia, Poultry Science Department, Avian Medicine Department for 10 years, and I got my degrees at the University of California, Davis. I've been a member of Poultry Science since 1981, when I gave my first presentation, a master's student at the University in British Columbia in Vancouver. I've been an associate editor and also subject editor for Journal of Applied Poultry Research. I've been a section monitor for many processing physiology sessions, but I've also been the program chair for physiology sessions, processing sessions, and I've been on the student evaluation committee in charge of symposiums. But in 2013, I was the general program chair, and this probably had the biggest interaction with poultry science in learning what all the other people do in poultry science to make the meeting come off as successful. So that was a good experience, introduction to John Cole and all the staff at Poultry Science. I grew up in Southern California. We moved to California in 1958 when I was 3 years old. And in 1964, we moved to Thousand Oaks, California. It was right off the 101 freeway in Ventura County, and I spent the next 14 years of my life there till I went on to college. It was a wide open spaces, new subdivision, lots of houses, building projects, but open fields with lots of lizards and snakes. We rode our bikes to school, and grade school, middle school, and high school. And I only rode the bikes to go on field trips or sporting games. I participated in football, baseball, and track. Well, we did actually have a chicken coop in Thousand Oaks, and we did have 3 hens, white leghorns, Rhode Island Reds, and eventually Aracanas. And I can remember as a young child catching tomato worms and feeding them to the chickens. We couldn't let the chickens out because they would eat the tomatoes. My mother had 3 uncles that were in the ringneck pheasant raising business for the Canadian government, so there might be a genetic component to the background of poultry science. I was pre-vet at Cal Poly Pomona, and while going to school I worked at a rental yard, and one of the owners raised parrots, a variety of caged birds. I obtained a parrot. UC Davis had an avian science department that did exotic birds, and when I first started, I worked with turkey vultures and the condors with Michael Fry and Cindy and Bill Toon, who did the puppets for feeding the condors at the San Diego Zoo. I've always been a hands-on learner, and anatomy was recommended as a pre-vet student prerequisite, and I've been pretty good at taking things apart and figuring out how they work. The best example is in '74. My father and I bought my first car, a 1957 Volkswagen Carmagia, for $100 and $50 if you wanted the engine. So I learned a lot of auto anatomy way back then. In '82, I applied to the vet school at UC Davis and also the anatomy department. The anatomy department accepted me, and they gave me a key to the back door. I worked in the necropsy lab. In the last 2 years, I taught the avian anatomy lab to the vet students and also helped out in the other gross anatomy labs. As a master's student at UC Davis, I got a research assistantship because I was able to wing band chickens on either wing at hatch, and I also could help out with artificial insemination of the numerous genetic lines there. I got an offer from the University of Georgia Department of Poultry Science before the vet school at Prince Edward Island, the Atlantic college. It was a brand new college that had its first class in 1990. First off, it would be Ursula Abbott, my major professor. She took a chance on me as a graduate student. And hard work and diligence pays off. She had an embryology incubation course that was 3 hours a day, 28 days in a row, and I was the voluntold teaching assistant for that class twice. The second person that influenced my career would be Dan Fletcher at the University of Georgia. He was a food scientist, meat person, and he helped me transition from my muscle physiology background, anatomy, to the biochemistry that happens in converting muscle to meat. And he also got me involved in the stunning and slaughter methods of poultry. Another person that had input on me was George Jameson. He was a 60-year-old farm worker at the University of Georgia, and one day I helped him unload feed off a truck, and his comment was, "You're not like the rest of them." Well, I haven't planned to be like the rest of them in my whole research career. I do things a little bit different, and that's okay with me. What helped me a lot in my research career in poultry science was in 1990, Joe Rennan at Auburn University asked me to be an associate editor for the Poultry Science Journal. This helped me a lot in understanding how people designed experiments, wrote them up, and then also turned manuscripts into published manuscripts. That helped a lot. I've been recognized with the National Chicken Council Broiler Research Award in 2009 and the Frank Perdue Food Safety Award in 2012. These have helped recognition the area of work that I've done my major part of research in. Well, one of the first things I would say is when you go to meetings or you listen to meetings online is listen to the meetings of the senior researchers in your field. It was beneficial to me that when I gave a presentation, Fred Hutt asked me a question in genetics, and he's the fellow that wrote Genetics of the Fowl. It's nice to know who these people are, and it's good to see a diverse group of different presentations. I would also recommend, don't be afraid to ask people for assistance, for help. Find somebody to help you get the job done that you want to, especially if you hit a roadblock. I would encourage you to mentor undergraduate and graduate students. This is a great training opportunity for them, but also for you in learning how to explain things different ways so people can understand. This was something that was taught in the vet school to me, in that there are must-knows. These are things you need to know to be a veterinarian. Ralph Kitchell had this attitude. You need to know these 10 things, and somehow we need to explain them to you. And then there's a lot of other stuff that fills in the gap there. My motto would be pragmatic, be positive, and just keep trying. That's from an offensive line. It provides recognition that my research and teaching career has some impact on the poultry industry, and hopefully on not only graduate and undergraduate students. There's nothing more pleasuring than to go to visit a poultry company and interact with a former student. It's a great opportunity, or have them email you questions when something odd comes up in the processing plant. The other benefit of being known as a fellow, it'll give me recognition here at the U.S. National Poultry Research Center of those I don't directly work with, and hopefully they'll understand what my basic strengths are in research and teaching. I'll get some recognition here at USDA. It's a main acknowledgement of my many collaborators who are no longer here, or retired, or gone somewhere else, of their contribution and help in the numerous publications we've had together. There are times where we've had 7 PhDs processing chickens. You need to have a pretty good experimental design to get 7 PhDs to come down and process chickens in a bioplant. In closing here, I want to thank all of my collaborators, all the students that invited me to participate in their research, and all the administrative assistants They've handled all the paperwork to get paid, to get published, and to go through review and eventually get promotions. I especially want to thank all the farm workers at UC Davis and University of Georgia that helped train me in poultry husbandry. My background was in anatomy. I knew some parts about raising flocks of muscular dystrophy chickens or featherless chickens, but I didn't know commercial poultry production. So I thank them, and also the extension faculty at University of Georgia that reached out to me and exposed me to the Georgia poultry industry. I thank them. I especially want to thank Diana Bronson, PhD at Auburn University. She was my first student worker here at the USDA ARS Russell Research Center in the Poultry Processing and Equality Research Unit. She started as an undergraduate, became a technician, a graduate student, and earned her PhD. She's responsible for the, I didn't do that right either. Okay. Diana is the first and only technician to ever earn a PhD at the Russell Research Center, and she's also responsible for my nomination for the fellow and making sure all the paperwork was done. I'd also like to thank my wife, Maureen, for the past, all her participation in data collection on weekends and editing my manuscripts and being a critic of my presentations in my early days. And I hope I can always remember the time when she came out to help me label eggs, and I said, write down their names on an egg and I'll feed the birds. And she wrote down the cage number for all the hens and also gave them a name, like Henny Penny, Little Red, Gloria, Agnes. And that was humorous even through the time hatch, and hopefully I can remember that. And thank you for Maureen for being a companion and putting up with all the time that I've gone and going to the meetings.